So a quick little how-to video on how to properly install the bolt pin twister head onto the bolt pin. And this is how you'll get it with the bolt pin head, the 90 Duro O-ring, and the bolt pin. And you'll notice there is a little groove on the bolt pin, and it's a recess inside the head, and that is for the 90 Duro O-ring to sit in there and buffer between the back block and that surface, so neither the bolt pin head or the back block get marred from constant use of the autococker back block moving back and forth. There's three typical kinds of fit: press fit, slip fit, and then like a loose fit. And depending on what kind of fit depends on which kind of glue you want to use. None of these should be a press fit. You shouldn't have to force it in, although not knowing the kind of anode it gets done, or if it gets overly stripped, it could become pretty loose. Most of these should be just a slip fit, to where it's almost just the tension of the air gap holds it on. So I would typically use 638, which is all Loctites, whether it's a different brand, like Vibratite. I call them green Loctite. I call it all Loctite, but that's just me. But you'll see they are different types of fit. There's a press fit, slip fit, and then large gap. So if you have and that's going to be thicker. So if you have a larger gap, you would use something like this. But generally, I use 638 most of the time. You can also use a two-part epoxy, because retaining compounds are expensive, especially in bottles this big. Since I'm a machine shop, I use these for other purposes outside of paintball. But a two-part epoxy would work just fine. Obviously, you'd be doing this after anodizing. This is still raw. But you'd want to take some 180 grit or 200 grit sandpaper and scuff up, zoom in a little bit, this little surface right here from the end to that shoulder. Stainless steel can sometimes be tricky when using a retaining compound, and having micro grooves for the retaining compound or epoxy to bite into is advantageous. After that, you'd want to clean this really well, and you want to clean that too really good with rubbing alcohol. So you would also need to have some rubbing alcohol and Q-tips as advised. So I would take either the retaining compound or two-part epoxy, and you'll put a little bit around the shoulder on the lip there, and I usually put a little bit inside edge of there, because as you press it in, it could wipe it away from there, and that makes sure it gets a good adhesion. After you do that, after it's pressed in, it's going to ooze out of that edge, and I will take a Q-tip, a dry side, and wipe as much as I can off while holding it with one hand, keeping it together. And then I'll take a little bit of rubbing alcohol on the other side and clean it up. You want to be careful not to just douse it with rubbing alcohol, because you don't want to dilute the retaining compound in there, because that can weaken it and then come undone. Same with the two-part epoxy. You then would let it cure. I would just let it sit like that overnight. If you let it sit sideways like that, it could drip out, and you could have an issue with it curing, right? A little bit ooze out and cure, and leave a large clump that you have to try and scrape away. But I would let at least cure overnight. I forget what the cure time is on these, but I usually leave it 24 hours, regardless if it's a quick dry epoxy or retaining compound. And that you then would install the O-ring over the shaft, and it'll just slip right into this groove and the pocket in there, and then you're good to go. Now, not everyone is going to have all sorts of different epoxies, compounds, and tools, or has ever done it before. So if anyone doesn't feel like they want to attempt this themselves, you could send it to a qualified AirSmith machinist. Off the top of my head, Jason Annell would do it. I have no idea how much he would charge or his backlog. I don't normally take in outside work, but because it's my own product, if someone does not want to do this themselves, if they pay return shipping, which is probably going to be $4 in a padded envelope, I'll do that for free. Just understand you take the risk of it getting lost in the mail. If have any questions, go ahead and give me a message on Facebook, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. If you want to send this to me, same thing, get a hold of me on Facebook.